I freed the foxwoman, everyone feared. Now she purrs in my lap. The canyon on Nira 7 was unlike any place Elias Rain had ever seen. Towering rock formations jutted out of the planet's red soil like ancient fingers pointing at the sky. Clouds of orange dust swirled with the gentle wind, carrying the faint hum of the planet's strange atmosphere. Every explorer knew Nira 7 was dangerous, and yet Elias felt a pull he could not resist. Rumors of a creature kept here, a being called the Foxwoman, had reached his ears months ago, whispered in fearful tones across distant trading hubs. They said she was a predator, intelligent, unpredictable, and deadly. No one who approached her survived, or at least, no one returned to tell the tale. Elias adjusted the straps on his exploration suit and scanned the jagged horizon. His ship, a sleek craft designed for difficult landings, was parked at a safe distance. He carried minimal weaponry, relying instead on his wits, tools, and a healthy dose of caution. Something about the stories bothered him. The Foxwoman was described as terrifying, but there was also an air of mystery surrounding her. The tales were so consistent, so detailed, that he wondered if there was more to her than fear. Curiosity had always been a human trait, and in moments like this, it burned stronger than fear. He descended carefully into the canyon, each step crunching against the rusty-colored soil. Strange plants with luminescent veins glowed faintly in the shadows, casting eerie patterns on the rock walls. Elias felt eyes watching him. He paused, scanning the area with his sensors, but the readings showed nothing alive. Yet the feeling remained. There was something here, something intelligent. As he moved deeper, he came upon a narrow passageway, and then just ahead, he saw it, a shimmering cage of energy. It pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat, suspended between two cliffs. Inside the cage was the creature he had come to find. She was smaller than a human, but stood upright, her figure lithe and agile. Golden-orange fur covered her body, and a bushy tail curled behind her. Her face was delicate but sharp, with pointed ears and eyes that gleamed like molten gold. She watched him warily, crouched as if ready to spring. Elias's breath caught. He had seen many creatures across distant planets, but none like her. There was a power about her that seemed beyond physical strength. It radiated intelligence and awareness. She could feel his presence even before he spoke. He knelt at a cautious distance. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said softly. His voice echoed strangely in the canyon. The Foxwoman's ears twitched, but she did not move. "I want to help." The energy cage shimmered, as if responding to his words, but it did not release her. Elias inspected the controls along the edge of the cage. Alien technology, unlike anything he had studied, yet he could understand its basic function. The cage was a prison designed to suppress her strength and keep her trapped. The question burned in his mind. Why had someone caged her here? And why did no one dare to free her? Elias hesitated only for a moment. Human curiosity was never idle. With careful hands, he began dismantling the cage. The energy field hummed louder, reacting to each adjustment. Sparks of light danced along its surface. The Foxwoman tensed, crouching lower, her tail flicking nervously. Elias spoke again, calmly. "I'm helping you. You don't have to fight me." Minutes passed, each one heavy with tension. The humming grew louder, a warning that the cage would not yield easily. Yet Elias persisted, relying on patience and precision rather than force. Finally, with a soft crackle and a burst of blue light, the cage collapsed, its energy dissipating into the air. The Foxwoman froze, then cautiously stepped forward. Her movements were graceful, precise, and wary. Elias remained still, his hand extended, waiting. She sniffed the air between them, her golden eyes studying him, searching for threat or kindness. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, she reached forward and brushed her nose against his hand. Elias exhaled, a small laugh escaping him. "I'm Elias," he said. "I'm glad you're free." For a moment, the canyon was silent except for the faint hum of wind. Then, the Foxwoman Vera, as he would come to call her, sat back on her haunches, her tail wrapping gently around her. She did not attack. She did not flee. She simply regarded him, alert and intelligent. Elias realized then that she was not the monster everyone feared. She was something far more remarkable, a being of immense capability, curiosity, and awareness, who had been trapped, not for her misdeeds but for her potential. Elias knew the danger was not over. Stories of her abilities were true. Many species, far stronger and more numerous than him, had tried to control or contain her. If the wrong people learned she had been freed, they would come. And yet, despite the risk, he could not leave her caged. That was not what humanity did. Humans explored, discovered, and sometimes risked everything for what was right. "Come with me," Elias said. "I'll keep you safe." Vera's ears twitched. She stepped closer, brushing her fur against his leg in a gesture of trust. It was a simple act, but it carried weight. The creature feared by all had chosen him, a human. As an ally, they moved together through the canyon, Elias scanning for hazards while Vera led with her instincts. She was faster, more agile, able to detect subtle shifts in the environment he could not sense. For the first time, Elias felt the thrill of genuine partnership, not just between humans, but between a human and a being of extraordinary skill. Hours passed as they traversed the canyon. Shadows lengthened, and the red glow of Nira-7's twin suns began to fade. Elias felt the first pangs of unease. He knew alien factions were active in this sector. The news of a freed foxwoman would travel fast, and mercenaries would follow. They would not care about morality or the bond he had begun to form with Vera. "Do they know we are here?" he asked quietly, more to himself than to Vera. Her golden eyes flicked toward the horizon, tails swishing thoughtfully. It was as if she understood the question, even if she could not answer in words. Elias took it as a sign to move faster. Survival depended on caution, on awareness, on strategy, the very things humans excelled at when faced with overwhelming odds. As night fell, they reached a sheltered alcove beneath a cliff. Elias set up a small energy shield in a simple camp. Vera crouched beside him, her gaze sweeping the darkening canyon. She did not sleep, but her posture was calm. When Elias allowed himself a moment of rest, she curled beside him, tail brushing against his arm. He realized then that trust had been established in the simplest form: presence. For the first time since he arrived on Nira-7, Elias felt something rare in his line of work: hope. The foxwoman everyone feared had not attacked. She had chosen to trust him, and in return, he would protect her. Humanity had always been defined by its ability to reach beyond fear, to connect, to understand. Here was proof an intelligent, powerful being recognizing that humans could be allies rather than threats. In the distance, faint glimmers of light danced along the canyon walls, a sign that they were not alone. Mercenaries, scouts, or worse, the stories, had not been exaggerated. Elias tightened his grip on his equipment. He would face whatever came next. Not just for himself, but for Vera. Together. They represented something new: the courage to act when others only whispered warnings, and the power of trust between species. Night deepened, the twin moons casting silver light across the canyon floor. Vera nestled closer, her eyes half closed in a gesture of comfort. Elias gazed at the sky, thinking of the challenges ahead. Freeing her was only the beginning. They would have to navigate danger, deception, and suspicion. But for the first time, he felt certain that humans, clever, brave, and persistent, were capable of more than survival. They could inspire loyalty, forge alliances, and even change the fates of worlds. And in that moment, as the wind whispered through the canyon and the stars glittered above, Elias knew one thing clearly: freeing the foxwoman was the right choice. Whatever awaited them in the coming days, humanity would face it together with courage, ingenuity, and heart. The adventure had begun, and neither he nor Vera would walk it alone. The next morning, the canyon was quiet, but the air felt tense. Elias woke to the soft rustle of Vera's tail curling beside him. She had not moved much during the night, but he could see her eyes following his every motion. Even in rest, she seemed alert, scanning the cliffs and shadows with a predator's precision. Elias smiled faintly. Trust was fragile, but it was growing. "We need to move," he he said quietly. We can't stay here for long. Vera rose gracefully, stretching her limbs. She emitted a low, soft purry sound Elias had not expected. It was not threatening, not like the growl of a predator, but more like a feline's contentment. It was a gesture of reassurance, a sign that she had chosen to stay with him, at least for now. Elias had read about such behavior in Earth's cats, but seeing it from a being so powerful and feared was extraordinary. They began moving cautiously along the canyon floor, using paths that twisted between jagged rock walls and under natural arches. Elias kept his sensors active, scanning for movement, while Vera's instincts guided them through narrow passages and over unstable stones. Every so often she would pause and sniff the air, ears twitching, eyes narrowing. It was as if she were reading the environment in ways humans could not. As they advanced, Elias finally spoke again. You were trapped here for a reason, weren't you? Vera tilted her head, ears flicking. She did not speak in words, but through subtle gestures and shared focus. Elias understood that she had been captured intentionally. The cage had been more than a prison. It had been a tool to suppress her abilities. He had noticed it yesterday. But now he began to understand. The cage's energy had dampened her strength and intelligence, keeping her controlled. Why? Elias asked softly. Why would they fear you? Vera's golden eyes met his. Slowly, she gestured with her hands, mimicking shapes and movements that conveyed meaning. Elias realized she was trying to explain her past, though in fragments. She had been taken from her home, a hidden world where beings like her thrived. They were rare, intelligent, and agile, capable of extraordinary feats. Other species feared them because their skills could disrupt established power. Power? Elias murmured. They were afraid you could change everything. Vera's tail swished in agreement. She understood his words perfectly, though she could not speak them aloud. Elias felt a surge of admiration for her intelligence and the precision of her communication. Humans prided themselves on empathy and ingenuity. But here was a creature who matched them in mind and skill. The day passed with careful travel. They avoided open areas, moving through shadowed crevices and beneath rocky overhangs. Vera's abilities became more apparent as they progressed. She could sense changes in the terrain before Elias could, detect faint energy signals from hidden creatures, and even anticipate small rock slides. Each time she acted, Elias realized that humans and her species complemented each other perfectly, her instincts and intelligence. His planning and tools. Around midday, they reached a narrow ridge overlooking a vast valley. Elias scanned the area. His sensors picked up faint movement scouts, small ships, or drones. They were close. Someone was tracking them. His heart tightened. The news of a freed foxwoman would spread quickly. Mercenaries and alien factions would come, and they would not be gentle. We need a plan, Elias said. We can't outrun them if they find us. Vera's eyes glimmered as she studied the valley. Then she began to gesture again, indicating a route down the ridge into dense forest below. It was risky. Terrain was uneven. The forest could hide predators, but it offered concealment and strategic advantage. Elias nodded. Trust required risk. And humans often succeeded where others failed because they dared to take chances. The descent was slow and careful. Vera moved ahead, scouting every step. Her senses alerted them to dangers Elias could not detect. Unstable soil, hidden pits, and alien devices meant to trap or ensnare. She paused frequently, signaling Elias to wait. Despite the tension, he felt a growing bond with her. This was no longer just a mission. It was partnership, trust, and mutual reliance. By late afternoon, they reached the forest. Trees with luminescent leaves cast gentle light across the ground, and strange vines swayed even without wind. Vera's movements became almost effortless, weaving through the forest as if she had been born here. Elias followed, taking notes, scanning for hazards, and observing her. They fear you, he said finally, breaking the silence. Not because you're dangerous, but because you're smart, better than they are. Vera paused and looked at him, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the forest. She stepped closer, brushing her fur against his arm, a gesture of acknowledgement and connection. Elias smiled. It was small moments like this that reminded him why humans were remarkable, the ability to inspire trust and form bonds. Even with beings far stronger and more feared than themselves, night approached, and they needed shelter. Elias found a hollowed-out grove, protected by trees and rocks. He set up a small, energy-based shield to hide them from sensors and prying eyes. Vera settled nearby, her tail wrapping around her legs. She purred, softly, a sign that she felt safe, at least for the moment. Elias allowed himself a rare moment of relaxation. Letting the tension of the day ease, while they rested, Vera revealed more of her abilities. Using gestures and simple patterns in the dirt, she demonstrated how she could manipulate energy fields in small ways, lifting objects, sensing vibrations in the air, and creating protective barriers. Elias watched in awe. Humans had always excelled at innovation. But seeing her skills applied instinctively reminded him that intelligence and creativity were universal traits, not limited to one species. Hours passed, and the sounds of the forest grew louder. Strange creatures moved in the underbrush, some curious, some predatory. Vera's senses remained alert, guiding Elias away from potential threats. They shared no words in these moments, yet communication was perfect. Trust had become their language, a bond stronger than spoken word. Suddenly, a flicker of light appeared through the trees. A patrol of scouts, small ships skimming above the canopy. Elias stiffened. "They found us," he whispered. Vera's ears twitched, tail flicking. She crouched low, ready to move. Elias quickly scanned his equipment and plotted their next steps. There was no time for hesitation. The human's strength lay in thinking fast, improvising, and acting boldly. With a silent gesture from Vera, they slipped through the forest using the trees as cover. Her camouflage abilities made her nearly invisible. While Elias relied on speed and strategy to keep pace, the patrol passed, unaware of the two figures weaving through the shadows. When the danger had passed, Elias allowed himself a sigh of relief. "We're not safe yet," he said, "but we can survive this. Together." Vera stepped close, her head brushing his shoulder, a silent promise that she would stand by him. In that simple act, Elias realized something profound. Humanity's greatest strength was not weapons or numbers, but connection, courage, and trust. Even a being as feared and powerful as Vera could choose allies when offered respect and understanding. The night deepened. Stars glittering through gaps in the forest canopy. Elias stared upward, thinking of the challenges ahead. Alien factions would come, seeking Vera. Danger would escalate. Yet he felt a sense of calm. Humanity had always faced impossible odds. Humans had always found ways to succeed where others feared to act. He glanced at Vera. She was curled close. Eyes half closed, tail wrapped protectively around her body. She purred again, a sound of comfort and trust. Elias allowed himself a small smile. They were no longer just human and foxwoman, they were a team. Together, they could face the dangers of Nira 7 and beyond. Morning would bring new challenges, but Elias felt ready. The bond they had begun yesterday had grown stronger today. The foxwoman everyone feared had not attacked. She had trusted him, and in turn, he had honored that trust. It was a rare thing in the galaxy, but it was the essence of what made humans remarkable. As the first rays of light filtered through the forest, Elias whispered, "We'll get through this. Vera, whatever comes, we'll face it together." Vera tilted her head, ears flicking, tail swishing gently. It was a small gesture, but Elias understood perfectly. They were ready. The adventure was only beginning, and already. Humanity's courage and ingenuity were proving stronger than fear itself. By mid-morning, the forest seemed alive with movement. Elias and Vera had traveled deeper into the woods, following narrow paths where sunlight barely touched the ground. The air smelled of wet earth and glowing flora, and strange sounds echoed between the trees. Elias kept scanning for threats, but the unease had grown heavier. He knew the scouts had tracked them overnight. It was only a matter of time before the alien factions came for Vera in full force. Vera, alert as ever, paused on a ridge and sniffed the air. Her ears flicked back and forth, tail twitching. Elias watched as her golden eyes scanned the shadows. She was calm but ready. It was the predator's confidence, honed over years of survival, but tempered by intelligence and caution. Elias admired her silently. Humans prided themselves on ingenuity, on strategy, and problem-solving under pressure. Watching Vera operate reminded him of why humans could thrive. We were capable of thinking in moments where others relied only on fear or strength. "They're coming," Elias murmured, reading the faint heat signatures on his sensors. A lot of them. Vera crouched lower, moving like liquid through the undergrowth. Elias followed, careful not to make a sound. They had to reach a vantage point to observe the advancing forces without being seen. After 20 minutes, they emerged on a small hill overlooking a clearing. Their dozens of scouts, humanoid figures in sleek suits, their weapons gleaming, moved cautiously through the forest. Above them, hovering drones scanned the terrain, their lights sweeping like mechanical eyes. Elias's heart pounded. He knew these scouts were only the beginning. The main force would arrive soon, and they would be prepared for anything. "We can't fight them head-on," he whispered. "We need to outsmart them." Vera's ears twitched in agreement. She crouched lower, tail coiling around her like a spring. Elias set to work, gathering loose branches, rocks, and vines. He remembered strategies humans used in ancient Earth warfare: distractions, traps, and surprise attacks. It wasn't brute force, it was creativity and cunning. By late afternoon, they had constructed a series of simple traps, hidden in the undergrowth. Rocks balanced precariously on vines, energy-detecting sensors rerouted to trip lights, and branches positioned to create noise at the right moment. Vera observed, occasionally adjusting placements with her superior precision. Elias marveled at her adaptability. Humans were capable, yes, but combined with her abilities, they were nearly unstoppable. The scouts moved into the clearing, unaware of the traps around them. Vera signaled to Elias with a slight tilt of her head. Elias took a deep breath, then triggered the first trap. Rocks fell from above, creating a cascade of noise and confusion. Drones swiveled, scanning for the disturbance, but failed to locate the source. Vera slipped between trees, invisible in her camouflage. Disabling a few devices with quiet, precise gestures, Elias could hardly believe how well their plan was working. The human's strength had always been ingenuity, the ability to see solutions where others only saw danger. And now, paired with Vera's abilities, they were able to manipulate the battlefield, turning fear into advantage. The scouts regrouped, clearly shaken. They split into two groups, trying to flank the source of the disturbance. Elias and Vera retreated quietly, leading them into a second set of traps. Branches snapped, lights flashed, and subtle energy pulses from the forest disrupted the alien sensors. Each time, Vera's keen instincts guided Elias, ensuring no harm came to them. Suddenly, a larger figure appeared, one of the alien commanders, humanoid with silver armor and piercing blue optics. He scanned the clearing, issuing sharp commands to the remaining scouts. Elias recognized him from prior intelligence reports, Commander Kale. Ruthless and efficient, feared by many across sectors for his relentless pursuit of prey. Kale paused, sensing something unusual. He raised his hand and a pulse of energy swept across the clearing. Elias ducked instinctively, dragging Vera behind a fallen log. The pulse swept past them, harmless but revealing. The humans had adapted quickly, using their understanding of physics and terrain to survive. This was the essence of humanity, facing impossible odds and finding solutions others could not imagine. Vera's eyes glimmered with calculated focus. She moved ahead silently, disabling energy nodes that powered Kale's pulse devices. Elias followed closely, amazed at her skill. Each action they took was careful, precise, and perfectly timed. Humanity thrived not because of brute strength, but because of creativity, courage, and collaboration, even with a being as feared and extraordinary as Vyra. By evening, they had led Kale and his forces into a natural gorge. The canyon walls rose high on either side, a perfect location for an ambush. Elias and Vera positioned themselves above, hidden in shadows. They waited, patience their greatest weapon. As Kale's forces moved into the gorge, Elias gave a quiet signal. Rocks loosened strategically earlier, fell in a controlled cascade. The scouts panicked, scrambling to avoid injury. Vera leapt with agility unmatched, knocking devices from the aliens' hands and disorienting them further. The gorge echoed with the sounds of chaos shouts, clattering rocks, and Vera's precise movements. Kale's eyes narrowed. He had faced many opponents, but never one like this. A human and a foxwoman, working in perfect harmony, using strategy, intuition, and cunning. He realized then that they were more dangerous than he had imagined, not through brute power, but through intellect and adaptability. Elias moved with quick, deliberate steps, signaling to Vera to focus on disabling key drones. Together, they turned the tide without a single direct confrontation. When the dust settled, Kale and his remaining forces retreated, frustrated and wary. They had been bested, not by weapons, but by ingenuity and courage. Breathing heavily, Elias turned to Vera. She was perched on a rock, tail coiled neatly, eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "We did it," he whispered. She responded with a soft purr, brushing her fur against his arm. That simple gesture carried more weight than any words. Trust had been earned and reaffirmed through action. Elias knew the victory was temporary. Kale would return, bringing larger forces. But he also knew something important. Humans had a unique strength. They could think, adapt, and collaborate in ways others could not. And with Vera at his side, they had the chance to turn fear into advantage, danger into opportunity. They moved deeper into the forest, careful to avoid detection. Vera led with her instincts. Elias followed with strategy. They communicated without words, a silent understanding forming between them. Humans could inspire trust, even in those others considered dangerous. This bond was proving invaluable. As night fell, they found a hidden grove, shielded by dense foliage and glowing vines. Elias set up a protective barrier, while Vera patrolled the perimeter, her senses alert to every movement. Despite the tension, there was a sense of calm. They had survived their first major confrontation together. Elias allowed himself a small moment of reflection. Humanity had always faced overwhelming odds, hostile planets, alien predators, and impossible challenges. Time and again, they had prevailed not because of strength alone, but because of courage, creativity, and the ability to form bonds where others only saw fear. Vera curled at his side, tail brushing his arm, purring softly. It was a simple gesture, but it meant more than words. She trusted him, and he would not let that trust be broken. Together they represented a new kind of alliance, one built not on domination, but on respect, ingenuity, and shared purpose. Elias stared up at the glowing canopy, thinking of the battles yet to come. Kale would not give up. The galaxy was vast, but the forces aligned against them were numerous and determined. Yet he felt a steady confidence. Humans had survived and thrived in situations far worse, relying on ingenuity and heart. And now, with Vera at his side, felt certain they could face whatever came next. The night deepened, stars twinkling through gaps in the trees. Elias adjusted his equipment and settled near Vera. The forest around them was alive with sounds. Some strange, some familiar, but none threatening. They had faced the first wave, and they had prevailed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new dangers, and new opportunities. But for tonight, they were safe. Together, they were stronger than fear itself. Humanity's courage, adaptability, and ability to inspire trust had proven itself once again. And as Vera nestled closer, purring softly in Elias's lap, he understood something fundamental. In the vastness of the galaxy, intelligence and empathy could be as powerful as weapons, and bonds between species could turn even the most feared creatures into allies. This was just the beginning. The adventure had only just begun, and humanity's finest traits were already proving unstoppable. The morning sun filtered through the dense canopy, casting patterns of gold and green across the forest floor. Elias had barely slept. His mind was alert, thinking of Kale and his forces. They had survived the scouts, but now he knew the alien commander would bring reinforcements. And Kale was not the type to accept defeat easily. Elias tightened the straps on his exploration suit, checking his equipment for the third time that morning. Every tool, every sensor, every piece of human ingenuity could mean the difference between life and death. Vera, as always, was beside him. She had been quiet since sunrise, moving with the precision of a predator, scanning the surroundings and sniffing the air for any trace of approaching danger. Elias admired her. Despite the fear she inspired in others, she had become calm, even affectionate, toward him. Her soft purring as she brushed against his leg had become a steady reminder that trust, once earned, could be powerful and transformative. "We can't stay in one place," Elias said. "They'll find us if we linger too long." Vera tilted her head. Elias could read her subtle gestures. She agreed. They began moving again, winding through the forest and into a narrow ravine. Elias noticed small devices embedded in the tree sensors, no doubt left by scouts. Vera neutralized them with precise movements, her fur brushing softly against the devices as they deactivated one by one. Elias watched in awe. Her intelligence and skill, combined with his planning, made them more than a match for Kale's forces. Humans had always relied on ingenuity over brute strength. And now he saw that principle applied perfectly alongside a being even others feared. By midday, they had reached the outskirts of a hidden alien outpost. Elias paused, scanning the perimeter. Energy shields shimmered faintly, guarding what appeared to be a holding area filled with cages. His heart tightened as he realized the truth. Other fox-like beings had been captured. Vera's tail flicked nervously, and Elias could see the flicker of recognition and pain in her eyes. She understood what they had done here, and he understood too. "We're going to help them," he whispered. Vera's ears twitched. She stepped forward, ready to lead, but Elias placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "We do this carefully," he said. "We need a plan." That's how humans survive strategy, not reckless attacks. Vera nodded, acknowledging his words. Together, they surveyed the outpost. Patrols moved on the edges and drones hovered above, scanning for life. Elias noticed patterns in their movement. Humans had survived by observing, analyzing, and improvising. With Vera's abilities, he could use the environment to their advantage. Elias crouched behind a rock, whispering his plan. "We create a diversion. We draw them away from the cages. Then you disable the energy fields. I'll handle the locks and security systems. We free them, then get out before Kale arrives." Vera's eyes glimmered with understanding. She patted his hand lightly, a silent agreement. They were ready. The diversion began with a series of small energy pulses and rock slides that set off alarms in a distant part of the outpost. Patrols rushed toward the noise, leaving the holding area less guarded. Elias and Vera moved swiftly, using shadows and natural cover. She neutralized the remaining sensors, and Elias hacked into the control panel for the cages. His fingers flew over the interface, human ingenuity at work, improvising with alien tech. Adapting quickly, calculating the sequence of steps to override the energy fields, one by one, the cages opened. Inside were other foxwomen and foxmen, beings like Vera, their eyes wide with cautious hope. They stepped out slowly, aware of danger but sensing freedom. Vera moved among them, communicating with gestures and soft vocalizations. Elias realized something extraordinary. Humans could inspire trust not just in one, but in many, by creating conditions where freedom and safety were possible. Suddenly the alarms rang louder. Kale's voice boomed over the speakers. "They are here. Secure all exits." Elias glanced at Vera. Time was short. "We move now," he shouted. The freed foxes followed, moving quickly but carefully through the forest. Vera led them, her instincts flawless, sensing where patrols might emerge. Elias guided them through paths he had noted earlier, using terrain to mask their movement. As they approached a river that cut through the forest, Kale's forces appeared, dropping from hovercrafts onto the banks. Elias froze for a moment, then remembered human ingenuity. He grabbed a portable energy emitter and threw it into the river. The device created a blinding flash of light and a wave of electromagnetic disruption. Drones malfunctioned. Patrols were temporarily blinded. And Kale's forces were thrown into confusion. Vera seized the opportunity. She moved like lightning, her tail striking small control panels, shutting down force fields that blocked their escape. Elias ran alongside, helping guide the foxes across the river, using floating logs and natural stepping stones. Each movement was calculated, efficient, and coordinated. Humanity's greatest strength, he realized again, was not physical power alone, but the ability to improvise under pressure. To turn danger into advantage, they reached the opposite bank, panting but alive. The freed foxes paused for a moment, looking back at the outpost. Their expressions were a mixture of relief and awe. They had been trapped, feared, and hunted, yet here they were, led by humans who had risked everything for them. Elias felt a deep sense of fulfillment. "Follow me," he said to Vera, who was now at the forefront. She glanced at him, then at the others, signaling them to continue. Together, they moved toward a hidden canyon passage that would lead them away from immediate danger. But Kale was relentless. His forces regrouped, sending advanced drones to cut off their path. Elias realized brute force would not work. Instead, he relied on strategy. Using the natural features of the canyon, he set up controlled rock slides and energy diversions. Vera guided the foxes, using her abilities to manipulate the energy flows and camouflage their presence. The combination of human planning and Vera's instinct turned the canyon into a defensive maze. Kale's drone struggled to navigate, giving the group precious seconds to escape. As night fell, they reached a plateau overlooking a vast valley. Below, they could see alien patrols searching, but they were too late. The humans' plan had worked. Elias set up a temporary camp, shields activated to hide them from scanners. Vera lay close, tail coiled protectively around Elias's arm, purring softly. "You did well," Elias said quietly. "All of you did. Humans have a way of surviving, and helping others survive too." Vera nudged his hand gently, her golden eyes reflecting a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. Elias understood without words. Trust had been built, not through fear or strength, through respect, courage, and ingenuity. That was the essence of humanity's strength. Hours later, as they rested, Vera shared more of her history. Through gestures and subtle expressions, Elias learned that her people had once been free, intelligent, and highly skilled. They were captured not for any crime, but for the threat their abilities posed to other species. Kale and the Coalition had feared them. Yet here, guided by human ingenuity and courage, they had reclaimed freedom. Elias thought about that. Humans had faced countless dangers across countless worlds. They had been underestimated repeatedly. And yet, time and again, human curiosity, creativity, and courage had turned the tide. Now, alongside Vera, humans had not only survived, but had changed the outcome for an entire species. The night passed uneventfully. For the first time since the journey began, Elias felt a moment of peace. Vera remained close, purring quietly. A reminder that even the most feared creatures could trust humans when treated with respect and care. By dawn, the group was ready to move again. Elias looked at the freed foxes, then at Vera. "We have more work to do," he said. "Kale will not stop, and we must prepare. But together, we can face whatever comes." "That is what humans do." Vera tilted her head, golden eyes shining with determination. She stepped forward, leading the group into the unknown, confident in the human who had risked everything to free her. Elias followed closely, mind sharp, heart steady, ready to face the challenges ahead. Together, humans and foxes moved through the canyon, their bond stronger than any fear. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers, but Elias knew this. Courage, ingenuity, and trust could overcome even the most impossible odds. And humanity had these qualities in abundance. The adventure was far from over. Kale's forces would return, challenges would escalate, and mysteries of Vera's kind awaited. But for now, humans had proven themselves capable allies, protectors, and problem solvers. And that, Elias realized, was the beginning of something far greater than survival. It was the foundation for a legend that would echo across the stars. And as Vera curled beside him, purring softly in the quiet of the plateau, Elias felt a quiet certainty. Together, humans and the foxwoman could face the galaxy, not with fear, but with courage, creativity, and heart. The forest was alive with tension. Elias and Vera moved swiftly along the narrow canyon paths, the freed foxes following close behind. Kale's forces were regrouping, stronger and more determined than before. Sensors hummed faintly in the shadows. Drones hovered like mechanical hawks. And the distant echoes of patrols reminded them that danger was relentless. Yet Elias felt calm. Humans thrived in situations where others panicked, relying on ingenuity, courage, and quick thinking. He had survived impossible odds before, and now, with Vera by his side, he felt prepared for whatever Kale could throw at them. Vera's golden eyes scanned the terrain, her tail flicking in thought. She moved silently, a predator in motion, anticipating the enemy. Elias admired her instinct. Humans had always valued observation and adaptability. And here was proof, paired with intelligence and skill. Even the most feared beings could become allies. "We can't just run," Elias whispered. "We need to end this, or they'll keep hunting us." Vera tilted her head, listening. She seemed to understand perfectly. Together, they devised a plan, used the terrain, the forest, and their combined skills to strike strategically. Humans excelled not in brute force alone, but in thinking, adapting, and turning danger into opportunity. That advantage could not be underestimated. As they approached a wide valley, Elias spotted the alien warship hovering above the treetops. Its massive hull reflected sunlight, and the hum of its engines vibrated through the ground. Kale had arrived with reinforcements, intent on capturing Vera and reclaiming control over her kind. Elias swallowed hard, but did not hesitate. He began setting up improvised energy fields and traps using both his technology and natural materials. While Vera directed the foxes into hiding positions, the first wave of Kale's troops descended. Hovercrafts landed on the valley floor, soldiers disembarking with precision and discipline. Elias activated a series of energy pulses, disorienting the drones above. Vera leapt with perfect timing, disabling key sensor nodes and creating gaps for the foxes to move undetected. Humans had always relied on creative problem-solving, and Elias's actions demonstrated that principle perfectly. Kale appeared at the edge of the valley, silver armor gleaming, eyes focused on Elias and Vera. "You cannot escape," he shouted. "They are mine." Elias did not reply. Words were unnecessary. Humans acted, and action had always carried more weight than threats. Using the forest and the terrain, he led Kale's forces into a series of narrow paths and hidden traps. Rocks fell, energy pulses, disrupted sensors, and carefully rigged diversions kept the enemy off balance. Vera moved with him, her abilities amplifying their effectiveness. The foxes attacked in coordinated strikes, targeting devices and creating confusion. Elias watched, amazed at their precision. Humans had always turned cooperation and ingenuity into power, and now their approach inspired an entire group of once feared beings to act together. Fear was transformed into strategy, panic into opportunity. Kale growled, realizing that force alone would not win. He activated the warship's main energy field, intending to trap them all. Elias acted quickly, calculating the timing and energy flow. With Vera's guidance, he rerouted the field's energy using natural conductors in the valley fallen metal, wet soil, and strategically placed stones. The redirected pulse knocked out Kale's sensors temporarily, creating an opening. "Now," Elias shouted. Vera led the charge. With precise movements, she disabled critical control panels on the warship, shutting down its ability to project energy barriers. The freed foxes followed, agile and fearless, using their abilities to neutralize patrols without causing lasting harm. Elias moved among them, guiding and assisting, relying on intellect, strategy, and coordination rather than violence. Kale's fury was visible. He advanced toward them, energy weapon raised, but Elias anticipated his approach. Using a combination of quick thinking and environment, he lured Kale into a natural trap, a narrow canyon lined with rocks that could be released. Vera activated her energy manipulation, loosening the boulders above. As Kale charged, Elias triggered the release. Rocks tumbled, blocking Kale's path and forcing him to retreat. The warship, now vulnerable, began to retreat as well. Elias and Vera had turned the battlefield, proving that courage, creativity, and cooperation could defeat even the most technologically advanced opponents. The freed foxes cheered softly, their trust in humans cemented by the outcome. As the dust settled, Elias took a deep breath. "We did it," he said quietly. Vera approached, golden eyes shining, tail brushing against his arm in a gesture of contentment and trust. She nuzzled his shoulder gently, a symbol of their partnership and the bond they had forged. Humans had a way of inspiring loyalty and trust. Even in beings who were once feared across the galaxy, Elias looked at the foxes who had been freed. They were cautious but alert, watching him with a mixture of awe and gratitude. He realized that humanity's greatest strength was not weapons or numbers, but the ability to form alliances, to understand, and to create solutions under pressure. In this moment, he had not only saved lives but had shown the power of human ingenuity and heart. "Vera," he said softly, "we've only just begun. There will be other challenges, other threats, but together we can face anything." She purred again, settling beside him, tail wrapped around his arm. Her trust was complete, and in return, Elias's responsibility was clear: protect her, guide her, and ensure the safety of all those who had been freed. Humans had always risen to the occasion when others faltered, and this was no exception. As night fell, the group set up a secure camp, hidden from sensors and prying eyes. Elias and Vera shared a quiet moment, watching the stars glitter through the canopy. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and dangers alike, but Elias felt a profound sense of hope. Humanity had survived impossible odds before, and now, with Vera at his side, they were not just surviving, they were shaping the future in the days that followed. Elias helped the freed foxes adapt to life beyond the cages. They learned human methods of strategy, survival, and cooperation. While humans learned from their instincts, abilities, and keen perception, together they formed a new alliance, one built on mutual respect and understanding. Humans had a way of inspiring trust, even in beings that had been feared across the galaxy. That trust, combined with courage and intelligence, made them unstoppable. Word of their success spread. Aliens across distant systems began to rethink their assumptions about humans. They had underestimated them for centuries, assuming that humans relied solely on numbers or force. But humans thrived on ingenuity, adaptability, and the courage to act where others hesitated. And now, paired with beings like Vera, their reputation as problem solvers and allies grew stronger than ever. Vera, once feared and trapped, had become a symbol of this transformation. Her golden eyes reflected not only her intelligence and skill, but also her newfound trust in humans. She curled beside Elias, purring softly, a sign of affection and respect. Humans had turned fear into friendship, danger into opportunity, and myth into reality. Elias smiled, watching the stars above. There were challenges ahead, certainly, and Kale would return in some form, but he felt confident. Humans had always faced the unknown, had always improvised, and had always persevered. Now, with Vera and her people as allies, there was no limit to what they could achieve. The forest around them was calm. The freed foxes rested nearby, sensing the safety Elias and Vera had created. The hum of distant alien ships faded as Kale and his forces retreated, unwilling to pursue against such clever opposition. Humanity had triumphed, not through brute power, but through courage, strategy, and the bonds they forged. Elias reached out, resting a hand on Vera's head. She nuzzled him gently, tail brushing across his arm in a gesture of complete trust. It was a small, simple act, but it carried more meaning than words ever could. Humanity had proven itself capable of more than survival. They could inspire, protect, create alliances across species and worlds. As the stars twinkled overhead, Elias whispered softly, "We did it, Vera. We changed things." Together, she purred again, settling comfortably in his lap. The foxwoman who had once been feared across galaxies was now a friend, an ally, and a symbol of what humans could achieve: courage, ingenuity, and compassion. Humanity had saved a life, freed a species, and in the process, reminded the galaxy that fear could be overcome with understanding and action. And as they rested under the canopy of stars, Elias knew this was only the beginning. Together, humans and foxes would explore new worlds, face unknown dangers, and forge a future built on trust, courage, and intelligence. The galaxy was vast, but humanity's greatest traits, curiosity, ingenuity, and heart, would shine brighter than any weapon or fear. The adventure had ended, for now. But the legend of Elias and Vera, human and foxwoman, would echo across the stars, a testament to the power of trust, courage, and humanity's indomitable spirit. And as Vera purred softly in his lap, Elias smiled. In the vastness of the universe, humans had proven once again, when courage meets compassion, when intelligence meets trust, anything is possible.